everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pup and Away podcast. My name is Steph. You may know me as Steph the Pro Dog Mom on all my social media stuff. But I am a certified dog trainer, canine behaviorist, and canine nutritionist in San Antonio, Texas. But of course, the very proud owner of Pup and Away, where we specialize in pet care with the behavioral edge. We do boarding, socialization, training, and hopefully we'll soon have a dog boutique as well. Because one of my favorite things to do is explore really great companies that are putting out high quality products. And so today I'm joined by Dr. Christine, who is the co-founder of Jope, which we'll talk all about, and a lot of like joint and health, joint health, and throughout the podcast today too. So first and foremost, Dr. Christine, thank you so much for being here with me today. Tell us a little bit about you, what your education, what brought you to be here today.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, again for inviting me on. Very impressed by everything you're doing. So I hope you continue for the benefit of everybody.
Thank you.
And so I'm a Dr. Christine, a French veterinarian. I graduated from the vet school of Toulouse, one of 4 vet schools in France. I also did an externship in Australia and then in the US, where I went to Cornell, Colorado, Louisiana, and Ohio State University. And then I practiced in France, moved to the US, and I've always really loved helping animals. And today my focus with Jope, which is my company and it stands for Joy of Pet, is really preventative healthcare, with a special focus on joint health. This is our first product, a hip and joint soft chew, and it was created because of my dog Pepsi. So there is exactly there is really like a personal story behind it too. Like, not only did I want to become a veterinarian for as long as I can remember, but I really care about joint health because I saw the damage that like osteoarthritis can have in dogs, with my dog Pepsi, who was my running partner. He was my childhood dog growing up. And then I saw the decline when his joint started suffering. And so I really became passionate about ways to help manage joint health, whether, with a curative approach for Pepsi, for example, where the disease is already present, but also preventative, because there's actually a lot of things we can do to keep the joints healthy. So today with Jope, we really focus more on the, maintaining the joint healthy aspect with preventative care. And our main product is a soft chew for dogs specifically. And the formulation, which we can go over, is the one that I gave my dog Pepsi when he was going through, all his medical issues. And unfortunately, he's no longer with me, but I always think of him. I did want to call the company Pepsi, but I figured that might not work so great for us. So we decided on Joy of Pets, which we think represents really everything that, our pets mean to us. They bring us joy. And we thought it was very meaningful to have a company that was named after something that was very significant to us.
Yeah, I love that so much. So I've probably talked to you about my dog before, because this isn't the first time for the listeners that Dr. Christine and I have connected over Jope. I've had the pleasure of interviewing her for another platform. I think that was about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, maybe. So I have a 15-year-old Schnauzer. He's over there. That's Sully. Almost 16. I need to stop aging him up. I keep telling people he's almost 16 because he turned 16 in October, less than in a month. So I'm very proud of him.
Birthday, yeah.
How far he's come, yes. And then this is Rishi. She's 7, about to be 8. So I have 2 very different kiddos that I do, because she is my active girl. We've done agility together. She's my gal who, if I go running, which isn't very far, very fast, but she's the one that comes with me. Okay. And so I originally bought Jope for Sully, obviously, because being 15, he definitely started having, some limping issues. Took him to the vet. He just officially got diagnosed with arthritis back in February. And your product,
hips, or
they said in his back.
Back? Okay.
Yeah, they said like lower back. And that was only because I took him to get an x-ray for something else. Okay. So they said back, but it kind of manifests itself in like his little feet, the front ones, they start to turn in. So I think there's a little bit of like muscle loss there as well. But Jope has definitely been a huge game changer. And I remember there was two things that started happening with Sully's body that I was like, oh gosh, like you are getting older. The first one was he started losing his muscle mass. He started to protein waste. And I found a different product and was able to get his muscle mass back. And then two, with the limping, both of those things just aged him so much. And that was really the first time that I was like, oh gosh, like you are an old man, because his brain, isn't old. He's still young, happy, vibrant. You could just tell, like, his body kind of slows him down. And so when I started giving him Jope, it really was a huge game changer. I wanted to be very sure that I had the product today because, like, obviously I'm a huge lover of it. When I started giving him that and CBD, I think were like two really big game changers for him. He obviously still has a couple of like achy pains every once in a while, but before he would get up with a severe limp, and that doesn't happen anymore. He kind of slips and slides a little bit because we have hardwood floors, but he can, run around the backyard, and it really was, the joy of pets was brought back to him, not only because does he bring me joy, but also I think his joy came back as well because of your products, which was super awesome. So thank you so much for creating such a mindful supplement, because it's not like other joint health supplements out there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first, I'm very happy to hear that we could help. That is why we go through everything we go through, and it really makes me happy when I hear this. I also saw the difference in Pepsi, and I do want to, just let our listeners understand that, we see great results like you've experienced, but it is still just a supplement. So, it is something you want to integrate. I'm sure you're not, not just doing Jope, you're probably just using a lot of different modalities to keep him comfortable and healthy. And obviously, Jope is a big part of it. So when it comes to the formulation, where we are different from most other products on the market, probably like 99% of them, is that we do not use glucosamine and chondroitin, which you probably know about. They're found in most of the products out there. And unfortunately, most studies show that they're no more effective than a placebo. So we didn't decide to include these ingredients. And instead, what we did is we went back, we looked at all the clinical studies that had been conducted since 2000, the year 2000, on all the ingredients that are found in joint products for joint health in dogs specifically. And we specifically looked at trials, like clinical trials that were conducted in dogs, not in humans, not in other species. And we reviewed all the ingredients, the data behind it. And that's how we selected UC2 collagen. So it's undenatured type 2 collagen, omega-3s, which include EPA and DHA, and then curcumin, which comes from turmeric. So those are our three main active ingredients. And we selected them because of the power of the scientific studies. So when clinical studies were conducted on these ingredients, the results were very positive in dogs. And then we also decided to include in our product the quantities that had yield positive results in these studies, in dogs specifically. And we test every single lot number. So if you buy one of your bags, whatever the lot number is, we do not put it on the market if it didn't go through a third-party independent vetting that checks to verify that the amount on our label is actually what we have in our chews.
That's awesome.
So that's how we are different. And we're also two veterinarians who formulate the product. And like I was saying earlier, those ingredients are the ones and the dose I used in Pepsi. And that's how I saw anecdotal evidence of benefits. And he was kind of the first dog to benefit from Jope. And then today we have over 10,000 pups probably on Jope, which is pretty amazing.
That is awesome, for sure. You're very humble, and to say, like, I'm sure, Steph, you're also doing other things. You are right. We are doing other things as well. I got him on a pet EMF mat. We do some stretching. We do some things to kind of build some muscle mass in certain areas. So I think all of that is super important. But the product for sure definitely kind of was a big game changer. And speaking of prevention too, so for Sully, it was a little bit more reactive, right? He was already kind of showing some signs of moving a little bit slower. For Rishi, though, she hasn't had any sort of limping diagnosis or anything like that. But for her, because, I have been taking her running recently, I've also been, giving her Jope as well. Can you talk a little bit about, you talked about most of it too. You said, being proactive. What are good, like, considerations for pet parents? Is it an age thing? Is it an activity level thing? Is it, how big their dog is? Like, what are some considerations that people should be thinking about to, like, ooh, joint health care should be something that's top of mind for me?
So that's a very good question. I think it's fairly broad. So joint care for dogs is really something that any pet parent should have top of mind. And why do I say that? Not because I have a company that does a joint supplement, because again, like we are a great product, but we are not the end all meet all solution. So we are part of a comprehensive like treatment and care plan for your dog, regardless of their age, regardless of their health condition. But really, any dog, the incidence of osteoarthritis is actually very high. So there's 2 out of 10 dogs who are over the, I think, 2 years of age have OA. So that's pretty high. And then when you hit 7, 8 years of age, that number jumps to 80%. So
Wow.
just to say that in the canine population, I do not know the reasons, but the incidence of joint issues is actually much higher than it is for humans.
Mm.
So just kind of regardless of the breed, it's always a good idea to start caring about joint health early. How to do it is usually through healthy diet. So as soon as you have your puppy, you want to make sure that you're feeding them the right diet to support their joints, to support their growth. You also always want to be mindful about the activities. So a dog will always be active. And you really want to try to tailor the activities that you do with your dog based on their abilities, which sometimes is their age, can be their physical condition, the breed also. So you just want to be mindful about how much activity, but it's always a good idea to keep them active. So even if they become older, you don't want to stop, exercising with them. You just want to make sure
Right.
that it's appropriate. So, for example, senior dogs, you want to do like shorter walks, but you could do them more frequently. Puppies, you want to avoid like hard surfaces. You want to avoid too much jumping if possible. And then the other thing you can always do proactively is use high quality joint supplements. So obviously Jope is an option, but there's also other products out there. There's some other really good like omega-3 product, fish oils. There's also green lip mussels. So there are other types of product too that you can consider. The best approach is to do your research, speak with your veterinarian, and make sure that you're using something that you're comfortable using, you trust the efficacy and the quality. And that
Mm.
also works with your dog, because if your dog won't take it, there won't be a big benefit. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and the final point I will make too is that, every dog, we really should think about joint care before anything happens. So you were mentioning limping, for example, and a lot of pet parents sometimes want to wait until they see signs of discomfort to then start thinking about joint care. But really, it should be the other way around. And I did that mistake with Pepsi. So my biggest regret is that, and I didn't know better. I was just a young student, and I didn't know the importance of joint care. But I realized that I hadn't really proactively maybe managed his joints, and so I had to deal with the results. And then it was kind of, he was already pretty far along, so there's no going back. But if you really start early, you can delay that time where something might happen. You can really support healthy joints. So I would say if I could go back, I would start earlier with Pepsi, like with joint support. Just make sure that, I'm giving him a supplement that can help. Obviously, diet is also very important. He was a big runner, so I ran a lot with him, but I do think I probably could have been more mindful. So starting as early as possible, it's really like investing for your dog's future. And you're not
Absolutely.
waiting for them to be uncomfortable to then start thinking about a treatment plan. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I think it's great that, both of your two babies back there have now joint support, and I'm sure you're mindful about the activities. Uh, but that is something sometimes, some of us have to learn, and, it's never too late to start also. So I would just add that. It's always the right time to start, never too late. And it's better to start, today than delay further, if you're listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I have kind of what you said a little while ago of like, we didn't know better. But even with Rishi, like, I bought Jope for Sully and I'm giving him, his daily chew, whatever. And I'm looking at Rishi and I'm like, well, you're the one that's active with me. You're the one that goes running with me. I should start giving you some too, huh? So, like, not that she's an afterthought by any means, but it was a little bit of like, I wouldn't have thought to do that with her just because it's not obvious, like, that she needs it, but she probably does, right? Especially knowing that statistic that, after you said 7 or 8 years old, 80% of dogs have some sort of arthritis is that's a huge number.
It's a
That's
very big number,
that's a
yeah.
huge number. And
And
like
it's
I'm 36, and so sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, that hurts me. So I don't want them to also be feeling that way too.
exactly, and that's the whole thing is like, like mobility is everything for dogs. You see how active, they are, and they love just moving around, jumping. So imagine when when we're uncomfortable, if they are too, it really kind of just puts some impairment on their daily activity and joy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just great to start early. So I'm sure she's gonna be thanking you soon.
I'm sure she's,
Not
and
already.
as a matter of fact, like she's starting to be like even more active, and I'm like, wait, I don't, the purpose of giving you these things wasn't to make you more active, it was just to make you feel more comfortable. But she's like, I'm feeling myself, so it's been awesome. I want to talk a little bit more about the ingredients because I think for me, the certificate of analysis that you guys do obviously is huge. Whenever I'm looking at any sort of supplements, the fact that you guys are doing third-party testing to really be, having a standard of your product and to make sure that what's in it is what you want it to be in there and that there's nothing less or more than you want there to be in there. But for me, I think the biggest thing was it's not a glucosamine or chondroitin supplement. You mentioned the studies where, we're looking at things and it kind of has a little bit more of a placebo effect, but collagen. Collagen is something that I think is kind of a big buzzword. Even as I'm scrolling on TikTok, they're all like, collagen for your skin and all the different things. I know that there's like collagen chews for dogs also. What is the difference between collagen from those kind of sources and then the UC2 collagen?
So great question. And so collagen, so UC2 collagen stands for undenatured type 2 collagen. Undenatured means that it's unchanged. So when the company that makes UC2 creates it, basically, they use a specific type of cartilage, which is chicken sternum. It does come from humans' consumption, so we're not killing chicken just to do this. It's basically a byproduct of human food, the food chain.
Okay.
When they extract the type 2 collagen, the way they extract it makes it that it's natural and it keeps its natural form that is found in cartilage. And type 2 collagen is the form of collagen that is much how would you say that? It's less elastic, so it's kind of harder than other collagens. So for example, type 1, type 5, there's a lot of other types, and those are going to be fine like in the hair, in your skin. But in the cartilage itself, because it acts like a cushion in between the bones, it needs to be a bit more robust. So the type 2 collagen is really something that's primarily found in cartilage, not elsewhere in the body.
Gotcha.
And so most of the products that you're saying, where you see collagen advertised, and if it's not UC2, it is going to be a collagen that most likely will target hair, skin, and that is great, but those collagen will not specifically help with joint care because those collagens are not necessarily present in the cartilage. And then usually other products used for joint care, most of them, if they use collagen, they use hydrolyzed collagen, and it will just read collagen. And this means that when the ingredient is made, it's actually hydrolyzed, so it's heated, and it changes the natural structure of the type 2 collagen that is naturally present in cartilage, whether in your dog's joints or in our joints as well. So that's the big difference with UC2. And so UC2 is patented, meaning you need to have the actual logo on the product to be able to say this is the ingredient that has been shown in clinical trials in canine patient to be beneficial. And there's actually 10 studies in dogs So that's a very big number, like 10
Yeah.
clinical trials in dogs that all show positive results when using UC2, including 2 studies that are conducted in young, healthy Labradors that were basically given either UC2 or a placebo, and they were invited to run certain distances over 30 days. And the scientists measured performance, recovery, and natural inflammatory marker that are due to normal daily exercise. And they found that dogs taking UC2 had better recovery and better performance.
Wow.
And so basically, it is one of the other reason we really like UC2 is because it is the only ingredient on the market that I know about that has studies with a placebo comparison in young healthy animals. So if I'm going to give a product to somebody that's, you know, younger, like Sully, for example, you would want something that has scientific data to say, hey, if anything, I at least have, you know, a higher likelihood than another one to benefit my pup.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love geeking out about studies and clinical trials and all that fun stuff. So that's really awesome that you know that science is there, especially in dogs. And like you said, to have 10 of them is pretty is
Yeah.
pretty remarkable for sure. You mentioned that the collagen comes from a chicken source. Do you find that any dogs who have like chicken allergies or anything like that don't have as much like success with the product because of that?
So again, the type 2 collagen that's specifically present in UC2 is mostly type 2 collagen, which is present in cartilage, not as much in the skin, not as much in the muscles, and not as much in like the hair. So when a dog is allergic to chicken, usually it's because they eat the meat. And so the type 2 collagen is not going to be present at high dose. So it's not a guarantee that they can take our product and have no problem, but it is more likely than not that they will be able to take it because the protein that is likely causing the allergy is mostly in the muscle, which would be different than the type of protein that is in the cartilage. That being said, we cannot guarantee that it is fine for dogs who have chicken allergies. We do have clients who give it to their dog and they have some chicken intolerance, they're fine. But I would say it do happens too that some clients say, hey, you know, I just can't continue giving Jope because my dog is actually allergic to chicken and they're not tolerating it very well. So like, you know, softer stool, stomach upset, and it's not worth you don't want to give something to your dog that's going to make them unwell.
Right.
So it's always kind of balancing that. But if you're a pet parent who has a dog and they are intolerant to chicken, but you think they really need the product, you can start with one chew, see how they react. And we do offer a 90-day satisfaction guarantee. So, you know, try it. If you're comfortable trying it, try it. If you're not, obviously stay away from it. And then if you're not happy or it just doesn't work for your dog, we'll refund you so you can try it. But most pet parents report that the dogs do fine, even if they don't eat chicken. But again, I just can't say that it will, you know, it's like completely risk free for
Sure.
those chicken sensitive pups.
Gotcha. And then you also mentioned that you use curcumin. Did I say that right? I never say that right.
Curcumin? Yeah.
Curcumin,
Yes.
which is it's like a byproduct of turmeric, right? It's like
So
a
it's the active compound in turmeric. So, you know, we take turmeric for natural antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties. And the compound in turmeric that has these benefits is actually curcumin. So usually it's about 30 to 50 times potentially more concentrated than turmeric. So you need less to have the same benefits. But it
gotcha.
is a charming yellow color and it can stain. So just FYI, be aware.
I pulled out the bag. So everyone who's maybe just listening, I pulled out the bag because of course I have my Jope here, and I was Felicia's like, oh,
Ooh,
my Jope's coming out.
Jenny's
I
excited.
was like, oh, there's the like, yellow on it, and I was like, oh yeah. So sure enough, because obviously turmeric, right? That's gonna stain some stuff, and the inside of the bag is yellow also. But yeah, these cute little shoes. Here, you already had one, but you can have another one. She got really excited. He came out of her kennel for it.
So
Sully's,
funny.
Sully's mostly deaf, so he probably didn't even hear me open it. But yeah, it does, but not in a bad way. Like my counters aren't stained yellow or anything like that. I just happened to notice it on the bag. Oh, now you woke
Yeah,
up. All
no,
right,
and
here
it
you
is
go, buddy.
important.
Here you go.
So cute.
So they love it for
That
sure, for
is.
sure.
No,
So yeah, so
yeah,
I'm
for the
sorry.
no, the turmeric I was just saying it's not like it doesn't stain your fingers, it's not gonna stay, but just be mindful that when you're giving it, there is curcumin in there, which is equivalent to turmeric from like a color perspective. So just be mindful, like you were
Especially if
saying.
you have a white dog, maybe like
Or
a white
white chocolate.
schnauzer. Has like
Yeah.
yellow on their beard. So I'm gonna
Mustache.
guess, yeah. So I'm gonna guess you use the curcumin because you wanted something that was more concentrated than just using turmeric as a general ingredient.
Well, back to, how I was saying that when we formulated, we really used the doses that were shown in scientific studies to be beneficial. In the scientific studies for curcumin, it's actually curcumin, not turmeric, that they had at about 50 milligram per 25-pound dog. So that's the reason we selected curcumin, is because the studies were conducting on curcumin at a specific dosing, and that's why we included it.
Gotcha,
Um,
gotcha.
yeah.
Mindful and intentional resources there. I love it. Now, one thing that I read on the website was the processing in which that you make it. You're using a low temperature processing method. Is that correct?
Yes, so UC2, as I was saying, when it's created, so when they extract the type 2 collagen, they do not heat it. So if we were to heat it, it would denature the collagen, and therefore we
Gotcha.
wouldn't have the benefit that we have with it. And also we very intentionally chose our ingredients, even our inactives, based on the properties of the inactives. And so if you heat something, we're all familiar with the fact that if you heat something, it changes its properties. So we do not want to heat it so that we don't, how do you say that, render any, compromise any of our ingredients, even the inactive ingredients. And also UC2 and our omega-3s. So we're really just making sure that the ingredients are as pure as possible when you have them in the true form.
And I love that. So as when we're looking at treats, they're like, chews. There's so many inactive ingredients and a lot of different supplements that for me, I'm like, okay, great. The active ingredients were great and all, but you kind of threw it in
Yeah.
the trash can when you got a lot of really junky inactive ingredients in there. And I don't think people really understand that, like, the difference between an active ingredient and an inactive ingredient. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? Like, what does that mean when you read that on the back of a bag?
So the active ingredients are the ingredients where you usually have a specific dosing. So if you take a label, I have one of our bags too, but let's see if you can see. Yeah. So for example, here you'll see that the active ingredients, they're above the inactives, and then they're listed with specific dosing. So I know you can't read very well, but you can see the difference. Versus the inactives are listed below without the quantities. The reason being that active ingredients are the one with the benefits that you're looking to bring, and those benefits are linked to a specific dose. So that's why you need the dosing to make sure that the benefit will be there. For the inactive ingredients, they have no activity, no benefit that you expect from them necessarily. So they're more here to, for example, in our chews, make the formula hold well, make sure your dog will enjoy eating them, but they do not bring like a functional benefit to the product you're giving.
Gotcha. Yes. Very. I love how you said that. They don't bring a functional benefit. And most of the time, whenever we're looking at those inactive ingredients, those are usually, again, just kind of junky just because you need, kind of junky things to make a chew, taste good, hold its form, all that stuff. But y'all are very mindful in your inactive ingredients. And that's always, you're not getting more. That's always something that I think is where like another opportunity for products to stand out, and for me that's another big standout for you guys, which is super awesome. So thank you for being mindful not only in your active ingredients but your inactive ingredients as well. For me, obviously I talked about my journey with Sully. Now they're standing around me like vultures. This is why I don't carry products whenever we're in past episodes.
I love
They love it too. Obviously I talked about my experience with Sully and just kind of seeing how, aging can, whenever our body doesn't feel good, we just feel older. And again, how I felt that for myself as well. But being a dog trainer and behaviorist, I've seen a handful of cases where the dogs are more anxious behaving. They are maybe even displaying some aggressive behaviors because they're not feeling well, right? And of course, what does feeling well mean? That's a variety of different things. That can just be, I got stomach upset one day, I didn't sleep well the night before. But for some kiddos, the itchy skin is another one that's really something that I see a lot. But for a lot of kiddos too, it's that joint health that really kind of lays the foundation for the dogs. And if they're not feeling well, expressing itself not only in like limping and obviously things like that, but behaviorally as well. And so for me as a trainer and behaviorist, this is still something that is important whenever we're thinking about health, joint health for our dogs, and making sure that we have really great supplements. Have you, based off of like hearing some of your testimonies and things like that, has anyone kind of mentioned behavioral things to you as well?
So I think, what you're describing is common. One of the biggest challenge as a veterinarian to diagnose like joint issues is that the signs can come in all shapes and form. And the behavior issues are usually the harder ones because, very frequently, like you were saying earlier, as our dogs age, they can just, slow down, change their attitude, and we sometimes just assume, oh, it's because they're old, when really it's, oh, because they're not feeling well. So like dogs,
Yeah.
like you were saying, who can become aggressive. So honestly, the spec of signs and symptoms that I see as a veterinarian, our clients like see, is so broad that it's very hard to speak to one specific sign. That is one of the bigger challenge. And sometimes it's like, it can be joints, but something else can also be present, right? Thinking more so of cats, for example, if you have a cat, they could have painful joints, but they can also have like kidney disease. And so it's not always just like a very clear picture. And in the case of joint health, which also is even more complicated, is that you can have signs that are very severe, but the disease can be not so severe from a structural standpoint and vice
Oh.
versa. So you can see dogs that have terrible hips, for example, but they won't show too much
Hmm.
signs of being uncomfortable. And others will show a lot of signs, but if you x-ray them, they might not be like too bad.
Oh.
So that is a real challenge with OA, and I would say that if you notice any changes in behavior and you're worried about it, because it's not just like one day off, it's like ongoing, right? Like your dog used to always jump on the couch and come cuddle, and now they don't come anymore. It's unlikely that it's because like you've offended them. It's probably because something is going on. Is it their joint? Is possible. I would just say make sure you can bring them to a veterinarian who can put their hands on your dog, do some test, and is just better to be safe than sorry. So I don't think of one sign. Obviously, limping is pretty indicative of joint issues, but they can be so many that I would just say any changes that concern you, the best reflex is to go to your veterinarian before I would say changing anything to their diet or exercise, because again, we'll be able to put our hands on your dog, really manipulate them, do some testing, and sometimes there's more than one thing going on, and sometimes it could be nothing, and then you come up with the proper treatment plan, but at least you've spoken to an expert, and they also have a baseline that way for where you're starting and then the progress, because that's really what you want to do, right? Is you don't want to keep them in an uncomfortable place. You really want to make them more comfortable, and so having your vet examine them on day one, then you can come up with a treatment plan, and they'll give you tools to see like, okay, the progress you're making, right?
Hmm.
So I think that's important, and unfortunately I don't have like one sign that I can tell you just look out for that one and then you'll know.
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
for sure.
yeah.
What about, because osteoarthritis is not reversible, right? Like we're not curing anything here. So the supplements, are they just kind of reducing inflammation? Are we building anything back physically on the body? Like what exactly is happening whenever we're giving supplements?
So it's really going to depend on the supplement. So first off, when it comes to like inflammation and really stopping inflammation, drugs will be usually the modality of choice. So like non-steroidal, you have some other medication that you can give, but when it comes to like real inflammation, when you want to stop it completely, you'll usually use drugs. For supplements, it's going to depend on the ingredients in the supplement. So there's a lot of different ingredients with different mode of actions. In the case of, for example, glucosamine, which is the one most present in a lot of supplements. The theory behind it, and I say theory because no study has been able to show how they actually work. So it's kind of a hypothesis that has never been proven. The idea is that they're bringing the building blocks, so glucosamine and chondroitin, which are part of the cartilage. And by giving glucosamine and chondroitin, you're bringing building blocks to rebuild cartilage. But that like just doesn't make a ton of sense, because if you think of a joint, like picture a joint, which can be the house, right? And when there is OA, there's actually inflammation, like you mentioned. And so if the house is burning and the inflammation is the fire, and you're bringing, blocks to rebuild the house while it's burning down, do you really think that we're going to make a difference by doing that? Like, would you want to rebuild a burning house with bricks?
Right.
Probably not. So the approach is really, you want to try to help. So what happens is that when you have arthritis, you have something happening with the immune system, where the immune system is basically attacking itself. So it's attacking the body, it's activating the immune system in a way that it shouldn't. And so the reason we wanted to work with UC2 and omega-3s is because these two ingredients actually help to change the way the body responds when it comes to that fire that we were talking about. And instead of saying, oh, we're going to bring building blocks, it's actually helping to redirect the immune system's response. So UC2 basically trains the body to redirect its immune response at the joint level specifically. So if you're picturing the house that's like burning down, UC2 is kind of like the firefighters that comes and will help put out the fire by training these firefighters on the proper course of action to change the way the body is responding. Omega-3s act in a similar fashion, just through a different mode of action. And the mode of action of UC2 that allows for that like specific training of the firefighters is called oral tolerance. And that has been shown in scientific studies that UC2 acts by basically, a dog takes UC2 orally. It goes through the digestive system without being absorbed or broken down. And it's able to interact with part of the immune system that's in the digestive tract, which is called Peyer's patches. And their UC2 activates specific cells of the immune system that specifically target joint health.
Okay.
So you have like an activation loop when a dog takes UC2, because UC2 is able to stay intact, go through the digestive system, meet the Peyer's patches, and then activate those cells that help redirect the inflammatory response or the immune response. And this help basically train the firefighters that are helping to put out the fire in the joints.
Wow.
It's a lot. I hope I was somewhat clear.
No, that was
Not
amazing.
always the most clear.
The analogy or metaphor, I don't know the difference. Simile, I don't know the difference between all those things. The burning house metaphor was powerful for sure, and you so beautifully explained it. I mean, I'm gonna have to go rewatch that a couple more times just because my brain just like process. I'm a very visual learner, and that's one reason why I actually didn't make it into vet school because I wanted to be a vet, but I'm really bad at chemistry because I can't see the chemistry because let's have a microscope, but who has a microscope with them all the time? But the way that you put that in, and you're saying these things like the Peyer's patches, for example, those have been things that I've heard about and read about, but don't know too much about. So knowing the way and the process that it enters the body and gets to where we need for it to go, and then the job that it does is that was awesome. Thank you for that.
And it's very unique to UC2. So the whole mode of action where like UC2 is ingested, not absorbed, not destroyed, is really able to go to the Peyer's patches, interact there with cells that then target specifically the joint environment. That is very unique to UC2, and there's no other ingredient on the market that is meant for joint care that has that mode of action. And so that's why it's very interesting, and it really just is an ingredient that's very, very powerful because of that mode of action. And then obviously omega-3s, they also have kind of that component where they also help to train the firefighters in a sense in our bodies. So really it's creating a healthy joint environment. So this house that's burning, you're basically just going back to kind of its original state. But you were asking earlier, can we rebuild? It is not something, cartilage does not grow back. However, you can help support a healthy environment to lower how much is being damaged. But there is, in fact, like you were saying, no, we can't go back. We can't have joints like when we were 10 years old or, 3 years old for a dog. So that's why, again, we really want to make sure we're taking care today of our joints and the cartilage, because once they're damaged, there's no going back. All you can do is basically slow down progression, but you're never going to be able to get back what you once had. And that is very hard, like for everybody. Maybe one day we'll be able to do, something. And there is some surgeries like, total hip, total knee replacements, which allow for that. You basically create a new joint, but it does come at cost of surgery. So.
And cost of the wallet.
Yeah.
Cost of all the
expensive.
things. Expensive on the body. It's expensive for the wallet. Yeah. Wow. That was so awesome. Thank you for that education and for, just your very in-depth knowledge. It's very obvious and apparent that, yes, you're a vet, but, health and hip joint and, health is super important to you, and you have the knowledge to be able to create not only a product, but an innovative product at that. And you're, again, so humble to always say, like, there's other things also. This is a product, and I hope that it helps dogs. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. And there's other things out there to be trying as well. So I really appreciate that as well. Dr. Christine, is there anything else about Jope or joint health that we have not covered yet? I feel like we got almost everything.
I think we got it out. We covered, importance of prevention, starting early, not thinking there's one miracle solution, but really it's more of an integrated approach. I think, it's just, if you have any questions, I am available. You can reach out to our team. So we have a customer care team. The email is contact@petjope.com. I work with them very closely. They're an amazing team with whom, they are key to Jope. If we didn't have our team, it'd be very hard. They're very knowledgeable, and I work very closely with them. So if you have more specific questions, you can email us. You can address it to me. Say that you heard me on the podcast with Stephanie and that you have some questions. We always are happy to go above and beyond. We follow up with customers. We really care about what we do, and we have a 90-day satisfaction guarantee. So if you want to try Jope, we guarantee it for 90 days. And I'm just, very happy to be here. Hope we can help more dogs. And when we see amazing comments on our website, it always makes everything worth it. So if you have tried Jope and you love it, we'd love a review. And Stephanie, I think what you're doing is amazing. I remember when you emailed me saying you're starting your own adventure, and it is hard to be a founder. So I'm very happy to see, you're growing and you're doing great. And I hope we can stay in touch and, help each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. I will definitely be putting links to Jope in the show notes. And then obviously you guys know how much I love it. I am an affiliate, so I will be dropping in my affiliate code. So that way, you guys know that I'm the one that sent them. But yeah, definitely joint health, super important for everyone. If you're interested, go grab these Jopes. They're super awesome. The dogs get very excited anytime I pick up the bag.
So excited.
And yeah, so if y'all have any questions, by all means, go reach out to Dr. Christine. And y'all are also on social media as well, correct?
Yes, Pet Jope for Facebook and Pet Jope on Instagram.
Perfect. I'll definitely be sure to link those too, so that way anyone who is interested can easily go find all the information. Dr. Christine, thank you so much for being with us. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a good one.
Thank you. See you soon.
Now, that might be the end of the episode, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Follow us on social media. I'd love to connect with you. We have quite a few social media platforms. For nutrition and holistic pet care tips, follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Steph the Pro Dog Mom. You can find fun training tips on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Pup Pup and Away SA. If If you're in San Antonio and you want to bring your dog to us for boarding, training, socialization, and nutrition, come find us. But if you're not in San Antonio, we do training and nutrition sessions virtually. Yes, they can be just as effective, I promise. Please rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast on whatever platform you listen on, and please, please, please share with a friend. The positive reinforcement of knowing people actually listen to this and find it valuable helps motivate me to keep on recording. We'll see you guys at the next episode.